Welcome to an incredible story that will touch your heart. You're about to discover lonely CEO saw a nanny share her snack with a child. Hours later, he knocked gently on her door. A tale of unexpected connections and life-changing moments. Before we begin this emotional journey, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss our heartwarming stories. Now let's dive into this unforgettable narrative. The October rain pelted against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the 42nd floor, creating rivulets that distorted Manhattan's glittering skyline below. Marcus Sterling sat alone in his corner office, the blue glow of multiple computer monitors reflecting off his tired face. At 38, he was the youngest CEO in the history of Sterling Technologies, a position he'd inherited after his father's sudden passing 3 years ago. The weight of that legacy pressed down on his shoulders, like the storm clouds gathering outside. His office was a testament to success: Italian leather furniture, original artwork, awards lining the walls. Yet it felt as empty as the penthouse apartment waiting for him 30 blocks away. Marcus loosened his tie and glanced at his watch. 8:30 in the evening. Another 16-hour day was drawing to a close, and he had nowhere he wanted to be. The intercom buzzed. "Mr. Sterling, I'm heading out for the evening. Is there anything else you need?" His assistant Rachel's voice crackled through the speaker. "No, thank you, Rachel. Have a good night." "You should go home too, sir. The storm's getting worse." Marcus mumbled something non-committal and turned back to his screens. Home. The word felt foreign on his tongue. His apartment was just another space filled with expensive things and silence. 20 minutes later, the elevator dinged softly as Marcus finally made his way down to the lobby. The building was nearly deserted, save for the security guard who nodded respectfully as he passed. Outside, the rain had intensified, and Marcus pulled his coat collar up against the wind as he waited for his driver. That's when he saw her. Across the street, under the awning of a small cafe that had already closed for the night, a young woman knelt beside a child who couldn't have been more than 6 or 7. The boy was crying, his thin jacket soaked through, and Marcus could see him shivering even from this distance. The woman, she looked to be in her late 20s, was rummaging through her bag with urgent movements. Marcus found himself walking closer, drawn by something he couldn't quite name. He stopped under a nearby awning, close enough to hear their conversation but far enough to remain unnoticed. "Here, sweetheart," the woman said, pulling out what looked like a sandwich wrapped in plastic. "I know you're hungry. This was going to be my dinner, but you need it more than I do." The boy hesitated, his small hands trembling. "My mom says I shouldn't take things from strangers." "Your mom is very smart," the woman replied gently, unwrapping the sandwich and breaking it in half. "How about we share it? That way we're not strangers anymore. My name is Emma. What's yours?" "Tommy," the boy whispered, accepting half of the sandwich. "Well, Tommy, it's very nice to meet you. Is your mom coming to pick you up?" The boy shook his head, tears mixing with raindrops on his cheeks. "She's at work. She cleans the big building over there." He pointed toward Marcus's office tower. "She said to wait at the cafe, but it closed and I don't have money for food." Emma's face softened with understanding. She pulled out her phone and then seemed to think better of it. "How about this, Tommy? We'll wait here together until your mom comes. And look what else I have." She produced an apple and a small bag of crackers from her bag. "We can have a little picnic right here. The rain makes nice music, doesn't it?" Marcus watched as Emma engaged the boy in conversation, making him laugh despite his circumstances. She gave him her scarf to wrap around his shoulders and positioned herself to block the wind. When she pulled out a worn paperback book and began reading to him, using different voices for each character, Marcus felt something shift in his chest, a warmth he hadn't experienced in years. His driver pulled up, honking softly to get his attention. Marcus held up a finger, indicating he needed a moment. He couldn't leave yet. Not when this scene was unfolding before him, like something out of a different world. A world where people still cared about strangers, where kindness wasn't a calculated business move. 40 minutes passed. Marcus remained in the shadows, transfixed. Finally, a woman in a cleaning uniform rushed toward them, calling Tommy's name. The boy jumped up and ran to her, and Marcus could hear the mother's profuse apologies and thanks to Emma. "Please, it was my pleasure," Emma said, standing and brushing off her damp skirt. "Tommy's a wonderful boy. You're raising him well." The mother's eyes welled with tears. "I try. It's just, since his father left, it's been so hard. I take every shift I can get." Emma reached into her bag once more and pressed something into the woman's hand. From Marcus's vantage point, it looked like money. "For dinner tomorrow," Emma said quietly. "Please, let me help." The woman hugged Emma fiercely before hurrying away with Tommy, who waved goodbye over his shoulder. Emma stood alone for a moment, watching them go. Then she looked down at her bag, now empty of food, and sighed softly. She began walking in the opposite direction, her shoulders hunched against the rain. Marcus made a split-second decision. "Follow that woman," he told his driver as he got into the car. "Slowly. I want to see where she goes." They trailed Emma for 12 blocks until she entered a modest apartment building in a working-class neighborhood. Marcus memorized the address and had his driver circle back. Through the rain-streaked window, he saw a light come on in a third-floor window. Emma appeared briefly, silhouetted as she drew the curtains. "Take me home," Marcus said, but his mind was far from the luxury car's leather interior. All he could think about was the woman who had given away her dinner to a hungry child, who had spent her evening comforting a stranger in the rain. Back in his penthouse, Marcus couldn't settle. He paced the floor of his living room, the city lights sprawling below him through the panoramic windows. His dinner, prepared by his housekeeper and left warming in the kitchen, remained untouched. How many meals had he eaten alone at that marble countertop? How many evenings had he spent surrounded by luxury, but starved for something real? He pulled out his laptop and did something he rarely did for anyone outside of business associates. He researched. Within an hour he knew that Emma Chen worked as a nanny for the Hamiltons, a wealthy family on the Upper East Side. She had a degree in early childhood education from State University, graduated with honors, despite working 2 jobs to pay her way through school. Her social media presence was minimal, just a few photos of her with children at various parks and museums, always smiling, always engaged. Marcus closed the laptop and walked to his window. The storm had passed, leaving the city washed clean and gleaming. He thought about his own childhood, about the nannies who had raised him while his parents built their empire. None of them had ever looked at him the way Emma had looked at Tommy, with genuine care, with nothing to gain. He made a decision that went against every careful, calculated instinct he'd developed in his years of business. He was going to knock on her door, but what would he say? That he'd been watching her? That sounded creepy. That he was moved by her kindness? Too forward. Marcus ran through a dozen scenarios, each more awkward than the last. Finally, he settled on simplicity. He would thank her for what she'd done and offer to reimburse her for the food and money she'd given away. It was a start. The next evening, after a day of distracted meetings and clock-watching, Marcus found himself standing outside Emma's apartment building. The security door required a code, but as luck would have it, a resident was leaving and held the door open for him. Marcus climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, his heart pounding in a way it hadn't during his last $1 million negotiation. He stood before apartment 3B for a full minute before raising his hand to knock. The sound seemed to echo in the narrow hallway. Footsteps approached from inside, and then the door opened a crack secured by a chain. Emma's face appeared in the gap, her eyes widening in confusion. "Yes? Can I help you?" "Miss Chen, my name is Marcus Sterling. I wanted to talk to you about last night." Her confusion deepened. "Last night? I'm sorry, do we know each other?" "Not exactly. I saw what you did for that boy, Tommy, in the rain, outside the Sterling Technologies building." The chain came off, and the door opened wider. Emma stood there in jeans and an oversized sweater, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. Without makeup, without the rain, Marcus could see the fatigue around her eyes, the kind that came from long days and probably longer nights. "Were you following me?" There was no accusation in her tone, just puzzlement. "No, not following. I work in that building. I was leaving when I saw you with the boy. What you did, it was extraordinary." Emma's cheeks flushed slightly. "It wasn't extraordinary. Anyone would have done the same." "No," Marcus said firmly. "They wouldn't have. I've lived in this city my entire life, and I can count on one hand the number of times I've seen such genuine kindness." She studied him for a moment, seeming to really see him for the first time. "Sterling. You said your name was Sterling, as in Sterling Technologies?" "Yes, I'm the CEO." Emma's eyebrows rose. "And you came all the way here to—" "What? Thank me for feeding a hungry child?" The absurdity of it hit them both at the same moment. Here he was, one of the city's most powerful executives, standing in a dingy hallway trying to explain why a simple act of kindness had moved him to track down a stranger. "I wanted to reimburse you," Marcus said, reaching for his wallet, "for the food and the money you gave them." Emma's expression shifted, and not in a good way. "I don't need your money, Mr. Sterling. I didn't mean to offend. I help people because it's the right thing to do, not because I expect some rich man to pat me on the head and throw cash at me." Her voice had taken on an edge. Marcus felt the conversation slipping away from him. This wasn't going at all how he'd planned. "That's not what I meant. I wanted to do something, to acknowledge what you did. Consider it acknowledged." Emma started to close the door. "Wait, please." Marcus surprised himself with the desperation in his voice. "I'm sorry, I'm not good at this. At regular human interaction, apparently." That made her pause. A small smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "You came all the way here, figured out where I live, climbed 3 flights of stairs just to have a regular human interaction. When you put it like that, it sounds a bit stalkerish." "A bit?" But she was fully smiling now. "Can I start over?" Marcus asked. "I'm Marcus. I saw what you did last night, and it reminded me that there are still good people in the world. I've forgotten that lately. I've forgotten a lot of things lately." Emma's expression softened. She glanced back into her apartment, then at him. "Would you like some coffee? I just made a pot, and despite giving away my dinner last night, I actually do have food in my apartment." "I'd like that," Marcus said, and meant it more than any deal he'd ever closed. Emma's apartment was small but warm, filled with second-hand furniture that somehow worked together to create a cozy whole. Books overflowed from shelves onto every surface, and children's artwork covered the refrigerator. She poured coffee into mismatched mugs and gestured for him to sit at a small table by the window. "So, Mr. Sterling, Marcus, please. Marcus, what's it like being CEO of such a huge company?" He thought about giving his practiced answer, the one he used for interviews and investor meetings. Instead, he told the truth. "Lonely." Emma looked surprised by his honesty. "I wouldn't have expected that answer. What would you have expected? Something about challenges and opportunities, market share and innovation, corporate speak." Marcus laughed, a genuine sound that surprised him. "You've been reading our press releases. The Hamiltons, the family I work for, they have investments with your company. Mr. Hamilton talks about Sterling Technologies at dinner sometimes. I help serve when they have guests. You're a nanny and a server. I'm a nanny who does whatever needs doing. The Hamiltons are actually quite kind, just very busy. Their children are wonderful, but they need more attention than their parents can give." She paused, studying him. "Is that why you're lonely? Too busy for anything else?" "It's more than that. It's being surrounded by people who want something from you. Every interaction is transactional. Every relationship has an angle. After a while, you forget what it's like to just be with someone." Emma nodded slowly. "I can understand that in a way. When you're always caring for other people's children, you sometimes feel like you're on the outside looking in at real families, real connections." They talked for 2 hours. About the city, about their work, about books Emma had read and places Marcus had traveled for business but never really seen. She made him laugh with stories about the Hamilton children's antics, and he found himself sharing memories of his father he hadn't thought about in years. When Marcus finally looked at his watch, it was nearly 11. "I should go. You probably have to be up early." 5:30, Emma confirmed, walking him to the door. "The Hamilton kids are early risers." At the door, Marcus turned back. "Would you have dinner with me tomorrow night? Actual dinner, not coffee and the cookies you scrounged from your cupboard?" Emma hesitated. "Marcus, you seem nice, but we're from very different worlds." "That's exactly why I'm asking. Your world seems a lot better than mine right now." She considered this, then nodded. "Okay, but somewhere normal, not some 5-star place where I'll feel out of place." "Deal. Shall I pick you up at 7? I'll meet you. Text me the address." They exchanged numbers and Marcus left, feeling lighter than he had in years. As he walked down the stairs, he heard Emma's door open again. "Marcus?" He looked up to see her leaning over the railing. "For what it's worth, being CEO of a huge company isn't the most interesting thing about you." Before he could ask what was, she disappeared back into her apartment, leaving him standing in the stairwell with an unfamiliar feeling in his chest. Hope, he realized. It felt like hope. If you're enjoying this story so far, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support means everything and helps us bring you more incredible stories like this one. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you'll know as soon as we upload the next amazing tale. The restaurant Marcus chose was a small Italian place in Brooklyn that his driver had recommended years ago. It had checkered tablecloths, candles stuck in wine bottles, and the smell of garlic bread that hit you the moment you walked in. Emma arrived 5 minutes early, wearing a simple blue dress that made her eyes seem even darker. "This is perfect," she said, looking around appreciatively. "How did you know?" "I didn't," Marcus admitted. "I asked my driver where he takes his wife for anniversaries. Your driver has good taste." They ordered pasta and wine, and the conversation flowed as easily as it had the night before. Emma told him about growing up in Ohio, the daughter of immigrant parents who worked multiple jobs to give her and her sister opportunities they'd never had. "They wanted me to be a doctor or lawyer," she said, twirling linguine on her fork. "They were disappointed when I chose education. But I knew from the time I was 12 that I wanted to work with children. There's something magical about seeing the world through their eyes, helping them discover who they're going to be." "Do you ever want your own?" Marcus asked. "Children. Someday. But it needs to be with the right person, at the right time. I've seen too many families where the parents had kids because it was expected, not because they really wanted them. Those children know. They always know." Marcus thought about his own childhood, the parade of nannies and boarding schools, the expensive gifts that were supposed to substitute for presents. "They do know," he agreed quietly. Emma reached across the table and touched his hand briefly. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring up bad memories." "It's okay. It's actually refreshing to talk to someone who understands that having everything doesn't mean having what matters." "What matters to you, Marcus? Besides your company?" He considered the question. A week ago he would have said the company was everything. Now, sitting across from this woman who gave away her dinner to a stranger, he wasn't so sure. "I used to think I knew. Success, living up to my father's legacy, making the board happy. But lately," he paused, searching for the right words. "Lately, I feel like I'm living someone else's life. Like I'm playing a role I never auditioned for." "So change the script," Emma said simply. "It's not that easy. There are thousands of employees depending on me, shareholders. My father built this company from nothing." "And he'd want you to be happy," Emma countered. "Parents always want their children to be happy, even if they don't always know how to show it." Their food arrived, and they ate in comfortable silence for a while. Marcus couldn't remember the last time he'd enjoyed a meal this much. It wasn't just the food, though the homemade pasta was excellent. It was the company. Emma had a way of making everything feel less complicated, less heavy. "Tell me about Tommy," Marcus said. "The boy from the other night. Do you know if he and his mother are okay?" Emma smiled. "Actually, I ran into them today. His mother, Maria, works 2 jobs to make ends meet. She was so embarrassed about leaving Tommy alone, but she didn't have a choice. The after-school program he usually goes to was closed for repairs." "That's a terrible position to be in." "It's more common than you'd think. So many parents in this city are just trying to survive, making impossible choices every day." An idea began forming in Marcus's mind. What if there was a program, through Sterling Technologies, free after-school care for employees' children or employees of our building's contract workers? We have the space, the resources. Emma's eyes lit up. "That would be amazing. Do you know how many lives that would change? Would you help me design it? I mean, if you have time, I'd pay you as a consultant, of course." "I don't want your money, Marcus." "Then do it because it's the right thing to do. Isn't that what you told me?" She laughed. "Using my own words against me, that's very CEO of you. Is that a yes?" "It's a maybe. Let me think about it." They lingered over dessert, tiramisu that Emma insisted they share, and Marcus found himself telling her about the real challenges of running the company, the pressure he felt to be perfect, to never show weakness. "Vulnerability isn't weakness," Emma said, licking mascarpone off her spoon in a way that made Marcus lose his train of thought completely. "It's what makes us human. Your employees would probably respect you more if they saw that you're a real person, not just a suit making decisions from an ivory tower. You make it sound so simple." "The best things usually are. It's people who complicate them." When the check came, Emma reached for her purse, but Marcus was quicker. "Please let me. I don't want you to think. I think you're someone I enjoy having dinner with. That's all." She accepted with grace, and they walked out into the cool October night. The street was quiet, lit by street lamps and the glow from apartment windows above. "Can I drive you home?" Marcus offered. "I like walking. It helps me think." Then can I walk with you? Emma looked surprised but pleased. In those expensive shoes? They could use some character. They walked slowly in no hurry to end the evening. Emma pointed out her favorite bodega, the community garden where she sometimes volunteered, the bench where she liked to read on sunny days. It was a tour of a New York Marcus had never really seen, despite living here his whole life. "You know what I realized tonight?" Marcus said as they turned onto Emma's street. "What's that?" "This is the first time in 3 years that I haven't checked my phone during dinner." Emma stopped walking and looked at him. "Really? Really? You're quite possibly the most interesting person I've ever met, Emma Chen. Because I'm different from the people you usually spend time with? No. Because you're genuine. You don't want anything from me. You don't even seem particularly impressed by me, which is oddly refreshing." "Should I be impressed?" Emma teased. "Absolutely not. I'm just a lonely CEO who doesn't know how to have normal human interactions, remember?" They'd reached her building. Emma turned to face him fully. "You're getting better at it. The human interaction thing. I had a good teacher." "I didn't teach you anything, Marcus. You just remembered who you are when you're not trying to be what everyone expects." Standing there under the streetlight, with Emma looking up at him with those warm brown eyes, Marcus wanted to kiss her. But he didn't want to rush this, didn't want to risk ruining something that felt important. "Can I see you again?" he asked instead. "I'd like that. But Marcus, I need you to understand something. I'm not going to change who I am to fit into your world. I won't pretend to be someone I'm not. I wouldn't want you to. Your world is the one I want to be part of." Emma smiled and stood on her tiptoes to kiss his cheek. "Good night, Marcus." She disappeared into her building, and Marcus stood there for a moment, his hand touching the spot where her lips had been. His phone buzzed with urgent emails, but for once they could wait. Everything could wait. Over the next few weeks, Marcus and Emma fell into a rhythm. Coffee in the morning when their schedules aligned, usually at a small cafe near Central Park, where Emma took the Hamilton children to play. Dinners twice a week, always somewhere unpretentious where they could talk without being interrupted. Weekend walks through different neighborhoods, with Emma showing Marcus parts of the city he'd never explored. But it wasn't always easy. Their worlds collided in uncomfortable ways sometimes. Like the evening Marcus had to leave dinner early for an emergency board meeting, or the morning Emma couldn't meet him because one of the Hamilton children was sick and needed her. "This is what my life is like," Emma said one Saturday afternoon as they sat on a bench in Brooklyn Bridge Park. She was exhausted, having been up all night with the youngest Hamilton child who had an ear infection. "It's not glamorous. It's not flexible. I can't just jet off to Paris for the weekend or attend charity galas at the Met. I'm not asking you to. But that's your life, Marcus. Eventually you'll get tired of coffee from carts and walks in the park. You'll want someone who fits better with the CEO lifestyle." Marcus turned to face her fully. "Emma, the CEO lifestyle is what I'm trying to escape. Being with you, it's the only time I feel like myself anymore." "And who is that? Who is Marcus when he's not being CEO?" It was a good question, one Marcus had been asking himself more and more. "I'm still figuring that out. But I know he's someone who wants to make a real difference, not just make money. Someone who values authenticity over ambition. Someone who—" He paused, gathering courage. "Someone who's falling in love with a nanny who shares her sandwiches with hungry children." Emma's breath caught. They'd been dating for nearly a month, but neither had said the L word yet. "Marcus, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know." Emma looked at him for a long moment, then reached up to cup his face in her hands. "I love you too. God help me, I do. But love isn't always enough. Not when two people want such different things from life." "What do you want, Emma? Tell me exactly what you want." She dropped her hands and looked out at the water. "I want a simple life. A home filled with laughter and children and Sunday dinners. I want to make a difference in individual lives, not board reports. I want a partner who's present, who doesn't have one eye on his phone and another on the stock market. I want real, Marcus, just real. And you don't think I can give you that? I think you believe you can. But believing and doing are different things. You have a responsibility to thousands of people. You can't just walk away from that." Marcus was quiet for a moment, processing her words. Then he stood and held out his hand. "Come with me." "Where are we going?" "To show you something." They took a cab to the Sterling Technologies building. The security guard's eyes widened when he saw Marcus arrive on a Saturday, with a woman in jeans and a sweater, but he wisely said nothing as they headed to the executive elevator. Marcus's office looked different in the afternoon light, less imposing somehow. Emma walked to the windows, taking in the spectacular view. "It's beautiful," she admitted. "It's a cage," Marcus countered. He went to his desk and pulled out a folder. "This is what I've been working on for the past 2 weeks. The after-school program we talked about, but bigger. A complete restructuring of Sterling Technologies' community involvement. Partnerships with local schools, fully funded childcare for all employees and contract workers, internship programs for underprivileged youth." Emma flipped through the proposal, her eyes widening. "Marcus, this is incredible, but it must cost. Less than what we spent on executive bonuses last year. I've already got buy-in from 3 board members. The others will follow when they see the positive PR and tax benefits." "You did all this? You inspired it." "Emma, you asked who I am when I'm not being CEO. But what if I could be a different kind of CEO? One who uses his position to actually make a difference?" Emma set down the folder and walked over to him. "You'd do that? Change everything?" "I already am changing everything. Being with you has shown me what I've been missing, not just in my personal life, but in how I run the company. We've been so focused on profits that we forgot about people. The board won't be happy if profits drop. Then they can find a new CEO. I'm tired of living for other people's expectations." Emma kissed him then, really kissed him, and Marcus felt the last of his walls crumble. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. "I need to tell you something," Emma said. "The Hamiltons are moving to London. Mr. Hamilton got a promotion. They've asked me to come with them." Marcus felt his heart drop. "When?" "Next month. I haven't given them an answer yet." "Why not?" "Because a very complicated man knocked on my door one night and turned my whole world upside down." Marcus pulled her close. "Don't go. Stay. Work with me on the foundation. Help me build something that matters." "Marcus, I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But Emma, I've spent my entire adult life being careful, being logical, making safe choices. And where has it gotten me? Alone in an office with a view of a life I'm not living." Emma pulled back to look at him. "If I stay, I need to know you're serious about change, not just at work, but in your life. I won't be someone you fit in around board meetings and business trips. Then help me figure out the balance. Be my partner in this. In everything." "Partners," Emma repeated, testing the word. "Equal partners?" "Equal partners." She was quiet for a long moment, and Marcus held his breath. Finally, she spoke. "The Hamiltons will need at least 2 weeks to find a replacement." "Is that a yes?" "It's a yes to trying, to seeing if we can build something real together." Marcus spun her around, making her laugh. When he set her down, she was smiling in a way that made his heart race. "There's something else," Marcus said. "I want you to meet my mother." Emma's smile faltered. "Your mother? The one you've barely mentioned except to say she lives in Connecticut and you see her twice a year." "That's the one. I called her yesterday, told her I met someone special. She nearly fainted." "Marcus Sterling, are you trying to give me a panic attack? She'll love you, how could she not? Because I'm a nanny with a state school education and no trust fund." Marcus took her hands. "Because you're brilliant and kind, and you make her son happier than he's been in years. That's all she's ever wanted for me." The meeting with Marcus's mother, Eleanor Sterling, was scheduled for the following Sunday. Marcus picked Emma up in his own car, a Tesla he rarely drove, rather than using his driver. "I'm nervous," Emma admitted, as they drove through the Connecticut countryside. "You're nervous? I'm bringing home the first woman I've dated seriously since business school. My mother's probably already planning the wedding." "That's not helping with the nerves." Marcus reached over and squeezed her hand. "Just be yourself. That's who I fell in love with." Eleanor Sterling's house was not what Emma expected. Instead of a cold mansion, it was a warm colonial with a wraparound porch and gardens that showed personal attention. Eleanor herself was waiting at the door, and Emma immediately saw where Marcus got his eyes. "You must be Emma," Eleanor said, bypassing a handshake to pull her into a hug. "I've heard so much about you." "All good, I hope," Emma replied, shooting Marcus a look. "More than good. Marcus hasn't talked this much about anything besides work in years. Come in, I've made lunch." The house was filled with family photos, including many of a young Marcus that made Emma smile. Over homemade soup and fresh bread, Eleanor peppered Emma with questions, not interrogation style, but with genuine interest. "Marcus tells me you're helping him restructure the company's community programs," Eleanor said. He's doing that himself. I just gave him a few ideas. Don't let her modesty fool you, Marcus interjected. She's brilliant with the planning. We're going to make her the foundation director. We haven't discussed that, Emma said, surprised. I'm discussing it now. You'd be perfect for it. Eleanor watched them banter with a soft smile. You know, Marcus's father would have liked you, Emma. He always said the best business decisions were the ones that helped people. But he built such a corporate empire, Emma said. Yes, but he never forgot where he came from. He was the son of immigrants too, you know. Worked his way through college washing dishes. The success came later, and I think sometimes he got lost in it. We both did. Eleanor looked at Marcus. I'm glad you're finding your way back. After lunch, Eleanor showed Emma the garden, while Marcus took a business call he couldn't avoid. I haven't seen him this happy since he was a boy, Eleanor said, deadheading roses with practiced movements. You've changed him. He's changed himself. I just encouraged him. Eleanor stopped and looked at Emma directly. Can I give you some advice? From someone who was married to a sterling man for 35 years? Emma nodded. They need anchors. Without someone to ground them, they float away into their work, into the expectations and pressures. Marcus's father did that, and I let him because I thought it was what he needed. Don't make my mistake. Hold him accountable to the life you build together, not just the work. What if the work always wins? Then you'll know he's not ready for what you're offering. But looking at how he looks at you, I don't think that'll be a problem. On the drive home, Marcus asked, So what did my mother tell you in the garden? Sterling family secrets. Should I be worried? Probably. Marcus laughed and took her hand. Thank you for coming today. For giving us, a real chance. Your mother's wonderful. Not at all what I expected. She said the same about you. As they drove back into the city, the skyline rising before them, Emma felt something settle in her chest. This could work. It wouldn't be easy, bridging their two worlds, but it could work. Marcus? Yes? About the foundation director position? Yes? I want to do it, but on my terms. Community-based, hands-on, not just writing checks from an office. Whatever you want, you're the expert. And I want to start with Tommy and his mother. Find them better resources, maybe job training for Maria that works with her schedule. Done. Just like that. Emma, you've made me see what's possible when business actually serves people instead of the other way around. I'm all in on this, on us. Emma smiled and squeezed his hand. Outside, the city lights were beginning to twinkle in the gathering dusk. It looked different somehow, full of more possibility than before. Or maybe it was just that she was seeing it through different eyes now, eyes that had learned to hope for more than just getting by. 3 months later, the Sterling Technologies Community Foundation officially launched with Emma as its director. The first program was the after-school center, which opened in a renovated floor of the Sterling building. On opening day, Tommy was the first child through the doors, his mother Maria now working as one of the program assistants with better hours and benefits. Marcus stood with Emma as they watched the children explore the reading corner, the art supplies, the homework help stations staffed by employee volunteers. You did this, he said softly. We did this, Emma corrected. My father would be proud. You're not your father, Marcus. You're something better. Your own man. That evening, there was a reception for donors and press. Emma wore a black dress that Marcus had insisted on buying for her, though she'd made him return the first 3 he'd selected as too expensive. You clean up nice, said a familiar voice. Emma turned to find Rachel, Marcus's assistant, smiling at her. Rachel, I didn't know you were coming. Are you kidding? I wouldn't miss this. Plus, I wanted to thank you. For what? For giving me my boss back. He's been different these past few months, more human. He actually asked about my kid's soccer game last week. Emma laughed. He's always been human. He just forgot for a while. As the evening progressed, Emma worked the room with a natural grace that surprised even her. She found she could talk to donors and reporters as easily as she talked to children and their parents. Marcus watched from across the room, his face glowing with pride. She's quite something, said Robert Hamilton, Emma's former employer, appearing at Marcus's elbow. Yes, she is. We miss her, you know. The children especially. But I can see she's where she belongs. Mr. Hamilton, I hope there are no hard feelings about Emma leaving. Robert laughed. Hard feelings? Marcus, she trained her replacement, organized 3 months of activities in advance, and still comes by to see the children. If anything, we're grateful. She's happy. That's what matters. Later, as the reception wound down, Marcus found Emma on the balcony looking out at the city. Hiding? He asked. Thinking, she replied, about how much has changed since that night in the rain. Regrets? Emma turned to face him. No, no regrets. This feels right, Marcus. All of it. Even the fancy dress and schmoozing with donors? Even that. Because I know it serves a purpose. We raised enough tonight to keep the program running for 2 years. Marcus pulled her close. I have something for you. If it's jewelry, I'm throwing you off this balcony. He laughed and pulled out an envelope instead. It's not jewelry. Emma opened it to find a deed. What is this? It's a building. In Brooklyn, near your old apartment. I want to turn it into a community center. Full service, childcare, job training, food bank, medical clinic. But I need someone to run it. Marcus, this is too much. This is just the beginning. Emma, you've shown me what's possible when you actually care about people. I want to build something lasting with you. Not just programs, but a life. A real life. Emma looked at the deed, then at Marcus. You bought a building. I bought a future. You're crazy. About you, absolutely. She kissed him then, there on the balcony with the city spreading out below them like a carpet of lights. When they pulled apart, Marcus dropped to one knee. Oh my God, Emma breathed. Emma Chen, you walked into my life with a sandwich, and a heart bigger than this entire city. You've made me a better man, a better leader, a better human being. I love your kindness, your strength, your absolutely terrible taste in movies. Hey, and your ability to see the best in people, even when they can't see it in themselves. Will you marry me? Will you build this life with me? The real life you talked about, with Sunday dinners and children and all the chaos that comes with it. He pulled out a ring. Not the massive diamond Emma had feared, but a simple vintage piece with a modest stone surrounded by smaller ones. It was my grandmother's, Marcus explained. Mom saved it for me, but if you don't like it, it's perfect, Emma said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, yes, I'll marry you. Marcus slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, lifting her off her feet in a kiss that would have made headlines if any photographers had been on the balcony. I love you, he whispered against her lips. I love you too. But Marcus? Yes? We're keeping my apartment. I'm not moving into that penthouse. Marcus laughed. Deal, though we might need somewhere bigger when the kids come. Kids? Plural? At least 3, maybe 4. You're awfully confident for someone who just proposed. I'm a CEO. Confidence is part of the job description. Emma rolled her eyes but kissed him again. Inside, they could hear the last of the guests leaving. Their real life, the one they'd been building together, was just beginning. The wedding was held 8 months later in the community garden Emma had shown Marcus on one of their first walks. It was small, just family and close friends, but the reception was held in the new Brooklyn Community Center, with the entire neighborhood invited. Tommy was the ring bearer, walking carefully down the makeshift aisle with a serious expression that made everyone smile. Maria, now the center's program coordinator, stood as one of Emma's bridesmaids alongside her sister, who'd flown in from Ohio. Eleanor Sterling sat in the front row, tears streaming down her face as she watched her son marry the woman who'd brought him back to life. The Hamilton children sat with their parents, waving enthusiastically at their former nanny. Marcus had written his own vows, though his hands shook as he read them. Emma, you once told me that the best things are simple, it's people who complicate them. You were right, as you usually are. Love is simple. You see a need, and you fill it. You see someone hurting, and you help. You see a lonely CEO eating another dinner alone, and you share your sandwich. I promise to keep it simple with you, to love you, to support you, to share my sandwiches with you for the rest of our lives, to be present, really present, not just fitting you in around the edges of my life, but building my life with you at the center. You saved me, Emma. Now let me spend the rest of my life returning the favor. Emma was crying too hard to read her vows at first, which made everyone laugh, including her. Finally, she managed, Marcus, I thought I knew what love was before I met you, but you've taught me that love isn't just about feeling, it's about growing. You've grown so much in the time I've known you, and you've helped me grow too. You've shown me that I can dream bigger, reach further, and still stay true to who I am. You've made me braver, stronger, and happier than I ever thought possible. I promise to anchor you when you need grounding, and to push you when you need to soar. To be your partner in all things, the boardrooms and the playgrounds, the galas and the garden parties, the big decisions and the small moments that make up a life. I love you, Marcus Sterling, even if you do have terrible taste in coffee. The reception was a mixture of Marcus's world and Emma's, board members dancing next to bodega owners, the Hamilton children teaching Marcus's business partners the electric slide. The community center's main hall had been decorated with wildflowers from the garden and lights strung overhead like stars. During the toasts, Robert Hamilton stood up. When Emma told us she was leaving to work for Marcus Sterling, my wife and I were shocked. Not because she was leaving, we knew someone would recognize her value eventually, but because she was choosing to work with one of the most notoriously workaholic CEOs in the city. But watching them together, I understand now. Emma didn't just take a job. She took on a mission to remind Marcus Sterling that success means nothing if you don't have someone to share it with. And Marcus, well, he was smart enough to listen. Rachel, Marcus's assistant, also spoke. I've worked for Marcus for 5 years. In that time, I've seen him close billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, but I've never seen him as nervous as the day he told me he was going to propose to Emma. He actually asked me, if I thought she'd say yes. I told him that any woman who could get him to leave the office before 8 p.m. was clearly in it for the long haul. As the evening wore on, Emma and Marcus managed to steal a quiet moment outside. The spring air was warm, and they could hear music and laughter drifting from inside. No regrets? Marcus asked, echoing his question from months before. Not one, Emma assured him. You? Only that I didn't find you sooner. You found me exactly when you were supposed to, when you were ready to really see me. They stood together, watching through the windows as their guests celebrated. Tommy was showing some other children a magic trick Marcus had taught him. Maria was laughing with Eleanor. The two worlds they'd worried about bridging had become one. What are you thinking? Emma asked. About that night in the rain. How you gave away your dinner to a stranger. How that one act of kindness changed everything. It wasn't the sandwich that changed everything, Marcus. It was you deciding to knock on my door. Best decision I ever made. Well, second best. What was the first? Asking you to marry me. Emma leaned into him, her wedding dress rustling softly. Want to know a secret? Always. I saw you that night, watching from across the street. I thought you were just another rich guy judging me for sitting in the rain with a strange child. Marcus pulled back to look at her. You knew? Not at first. But when you showed up at my door, I put it together. This CEO, who just happened to see me with Tommy. Please. Why didn't you say anything? Because you were trying so hard to be normal, it was endearing. Besides, I wanted to see where it would go. And? Where did it go? Emma smiled and pulled him back inside to their reception, where their new life was waiting. Exactly where it was supposed to. 2 years later, Emma stood in the same community center, now expanded to include a free medical clinic and legal aid office. She was directing volunteers for their annual Thanksgiving dinner, her movements careful as she navigated around her 8-month pregnant belly. You should be sitting, Marcus said, appearing with a chair. I'm pregnant, not broken, Emma replied, but she sat anyway, grateful for the relief. The doctor said I'm doing beautifully and to keep doing what I'm doing as long as I'm comfortable. Marcus knelt beside her chair, his hand on her belly. How's our little turkey doing? She's been practicing kickboxing all morning. Did you peek at the ultrasound results? Mother's intuition. You said the same thing about it being a boy last month. Emma laughed. I'm allowed to change my mind. Tommy ran up to them, now 9 years old and tall for his age. Miss Emma, Mr. Marcus, my mom says to tell you the turkeys are ready. Thanks, buddy, Marcus said, ruffling his hair. Want to help me carry them out? As Marcus and Tommy headed to the kitchen, Emma watched them go with a full heart. The center had become everything they'd dreamed and more. It served over 300 families now, with programs running 7 days a week. The Sterling Technologies Board had initially balked at the resources Marcus was dedicating to community programs, but the positive press and employee retention rates had won them over. The company was more profitable than ever, but more importantly, it was a place where people wanted to work. Emma, Maria called out, where do you want the dessert station? Emma directed the setup, greeting families as they arrived. Many of them had been coming since the center opened. She knew their names, their stories, their struggles and triumphs. Eleanor arrived with her new gentleman friend, a widower she'd met at a charity function Marcus had reluctantly attended. She kissed Emma's cheek and immediately took over directing traffic so Emma could rest. Your mother-in-law is a force of nature, said a voice beside her. Emma turned to find her own parents, who'd moved to New York 6 months ago to be closer to their soon-to-arrive grandchild. "Mom, Dad, I thought you weren't coming until later." "We wanted to help," her father said. "This is our community too now." As the dinner progressed, Emma watched the room fill with the overlapping circles of their life. There was the family whose father had gotten a job through their job training program, now managing a restaurant. The elderly woman who came to the center for companionship and stayed to teach knitting classes. The teenagers who used the computer lab to apply for college, 3 of whom had gotten into their dream schools with Emma's help on their essays. Marcus returned from the kitchen, his shirt splattered with gravy, looking nothing like the pristine CEO she'd first met. He caught her eye across the room and smiled, that private smile that was just for her. "Speech time," Eleanor announced, tapping a spoon against a glass. Marcus helped Emma to her feet, keeping his arm around her waist as she addressed the crowd. 3 years ago, Emma began, a little boy was hungry in the rain. It was such a small moment, sharing a sandwich, but it led to all of this. To all of you. This center isn't just a building or a program. It's proof that when people care about each other, when businesses invest in communities, when we remember that we're all connected, amazing things happen. "Some of you were here on our wedding day," Marcus added. "You've watched us build this place, build our programs, build our family." He placed his hand on Emma's belly. "You've taught us that community isn't just about helping others. It's about letting others help you too. Thank you for becoming our family." The applause was warm and long. As Emma sat back down, she felt the baby kick strongly. "I think she liked the speech," she told Marcus. "Or he's ready for turkey," Marcus countered. The dinner continued around them, the noise and warmth of community filling the space. Emma thought about the journey that had brought them here, from that rainy night to this moment, surrounded by love and purpose. "Penny for your thoughts," Marcus said, sitting beside her. "I was thinking about how you once said your office was a cage." "It was. And now?" Marcus looked around the room, at Tommy helping serve food, at Maria laughing with other parents, at his mother teaching children to fold napkins into swans, at Emma's parents chatting with former board members who'd become regular volunteers. "Now it's just an office. This is home." Emma took his hand. "I love you, you know. Even with gravy on my shirt. Especially with gravy on your shirt." A month later, on a snowy December morning, Emma gave birth to their daughter, Sophie Chen Sterling. She had Marcus's eyes and Emma's determined chin. The hospital room filled with visitors, Eleanor, Emma's parents, Maria and Tommy, the Hamiltons with their children, Rachel and what seemed like half the community center. "She's perfect," Marcus whispered, holding his daughter for the first time. "She'd better be, after 16 hours of labor," Emma said tiredly but happily. "You were amazing." "You were terrified." "Absolutely terrified," Marcus agreed, "but trying to hide it. You failed spectacularly. I think you were more scared than I was. I had more time to think about everything that could go wrong. You were busy actually doing the work." Emma laughed, then winced. "Don't make me laugh. Everything hurts." Sophie stirred in Marcus's arms, making a small sound that had both parents immediately focused on her. "She's going to run that boardroom one day," Eleanor said from the doorway. "Or run a community center," Emma countered. "Or both," Marcus said. "She's a Sterling Chen. She can do anything." As the visitors eventually filtered out, leaving the new family alone, Emma watched Marcus rock Sophie gently, humming off-key. This man who'd once worked 18-hour days now talked about cutting back further, about being present for every milestone. "What are you thinking?" Marcus asked, catching her watching him. "About how different our lives would be if you hadn't knocked on my door that night. I'd still be alone in that office, probably on my 3rd merger of the year and my 5th ulcer. And I'd be in London with the Hamiltons." "Fate," Marcus said simply, "or just a hungry little boy and a shared sandwich." "Same thing." Sophie opened her eyes then, seeming to look right at them with that unfocused newborn gaze that somehow sees everything. "Hi, baby girl," Emma whispered. "Welcome to your complicated, beautiful life." "With very simple love," Marcus added, kissing the top of Sophie's head, then leaning over to kiss Emma. Outside, snow continued to fall on the city, blanketing it in fresh white. It was a new beginning, one of many they'd shared, and many more to come. The Sterling Technologies building stood tall in the distance, but it no longer dominated the skyline of their lives. That belonged to smaller, more important things: a baby's first cry, a community's embrace, and the love that had grown from one small act of kindness on a rainy night. 5 years passed in a blur of first steps, first words, board meetings redesigned around soccer games, and community centre expansions. Sophie grew into a fierce, compassionate child who had her mother's heart and her father's determination. Her little brother, James, born 2 years after her, was quieter but observant, always watching with Marcus's analytical eyes. The community centre had become a model, with cities across the country sending representatives to learn about their programs. Emma travelled occasionally to consult, always with at least one child in tow, while Marcus had restructured his entire company around the principle of stakeholder capitalism, profits with purpose. On a spring evening, they sat in their Brooklyn brownstone. They'd finally compromised between Emma's apartment and Marcus's penthouse, watching their children play in the small backyard. "Tommy's graduating next week," Emma said, reading a text from Maria. "Full scholarship to Columbia. Engineering, right? Computer science. He says he wants to build apps that help people like his mom find resources." Marcus smiled. "Remember when he was that scared little boy in the rain? Remember when you were that lonely CEO watching from across the street? Best night of my life." "Really? Not our wedding? Not Sophie's birth?" Without that night, none of the others would have happened. Emma curled into his side. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't shared my sandwich?" "You would have. It's who you are. And you would have knocked on my door. It's who you were becoming." Sophie ran over to them, her dark hair flying. "Mama, Daddy, James won't share the swings." "Did you ask nicely?" Emma asked. "I said please 3 times. "Maybe it's his turn," Marcus suggested. "Why don't you show him how to pump his legs? You're such a good teacher." Sophie considered this, then nodded seriously and ran back to her brother. "She's going to be running that boardroom after all," Emma said. "Or a classroom. She's got your teaching gift." "Maybe both. The world's changing. By the time she's grown, who knows what'll be possible?" Marcus's phone buzzed with an email, but he didn't check it. That was the rule. No phones during family time. "The board wants me to consider expanding internationally," he said instead. "And I told them I'd only consider it if we could maintain our community involvement ratios. They're actually considering it." "My corporate revolutionary," Emma teased. "Your influence. I was just a stuffed shirt before you." "You were never just anything, Marcus Sterling." They sat quietly, watching their children play as the sun set over Brooklyn. The city hummed around them, millions of lives intersecting in small and large ways. Somewhere perhaps another CEO was working late, alone in his office. Somewhere another act of kindness was changing someone's life. "Mum's coming for dinner Sunday," Marcus said. "She's bringing David. I like David. He makes her laugh. She deserves that, to be happy. Everyone does." James toddled over, arms raised to be picked up. Marcus lifted him onto his lap, and the boy immediately grabbed for his father's watch. "Tick, tick," James said seriously. "That's right, buddy. Tick, tick." "He's going to be the analytical one," Emma predicted. "Sophie will dream big and James will figure out how to make it happen. Like us. Exactly like us." As darkness fell, they gathered their children and went inside. Bath time was chaos, as always. Sophie insisted on helping wash James's hair, which resulted in more water on the floor than in the tub. Marcus read bedtime stories while Emma cleaned up the bathroom. Then they switched for goodnight kisses. Finally, with both children asleep, they collapsed on the couch. "Tired?" Marcus asked. "Exhausted. Happy but exhausted. Want to watch one of your terrible movies?" "They're not terrible. You just have no taste." "I have excellent taste. I married you." Emma laughed and queued up a romantic comedy Marcus would pretend to hate, but would actually enjoy. As the opening credits rolled, she thought about their life. Not perfect, but real. Full of challenges and compromises, late nights with sick children and early mornings with conference calls, but also full of love and purpose and community. "I love you," she said suddenly. Marcus looked at her, surprised by the timing. "I love you too." What brought that on? Just thinking about that night in the rain. How one small moment can change everything. The best moments usually do. On the screen, the movie's protagonist was having a meet-cute in a coffee shop. Emma and Marcus watched, his arm around her, her head on his shoulder, in the home they'd built together. Outside, the city continued its endless dance, but inside, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. The following week, brought Tommy's graduation. The community center had organized a bus to take anyone who wanted to attend, and it was completely full. Emma sat with Maria, both of them crying, as Tommy walked across the stage. "None of this would have happened without you," Maria whispered to Emma. "You did this, Maria. You worked 3 jobs to keep your family together. You never gave up. But you gave us hope when we had none. You and Mr. Marcus." Marcus was at the front, videoing everything for the center's newsletter. He'd become the unofficial documentarian of their community's successes. After the ceremony, Tommy found them in the crowd. He was taller than Marcus now, confident in a way that seemed impossible for the scared boy from that rainy night. "Thank you," he said simply, "for everything. You earned this," Emma said, hugging him tightly. "But you showed me it was possible. When you shared your sandwich that night, it wasn't just about the food. It was about someone seeing me, believing I mattered." Marcus stepped forward. "You've always mattered, Tommy. Now go show Columbia what you're capable of." "Actually," Tommy said, looking nervous for the first time, "I wanted to ask you something. Would it be okay if I did my internship at Sterling Technologies? I know it's a lot to ask." "Yes," Marcus said immediately. "Absolutely yes. Rachel will set everything up." As Tommy was pulled away by other well-wishers, Emma took Marcus's hand. "Look what one sandwich started. A revolution of kindness," Marcus agreed. "That's a bit dramatic." "I'm a CEO. We're supposed to be dramatic about our visions. Your vision used to be profit margins and market share. Now it's this," Marcus gestured to the celebrating crowd. "Community, connection, purpose." Sophie ran up to them, having escaped from Eleanor's supervision. "Can we get ice cream to celebrate?" "It's a graduation, not your graduation," James pointed out with 4-year-old logic. "All graduations deserve ice cream," Emma declared. "It's a rule." As they walked to the ice cream shop, Sophie holding Emma's hand and James on Marcus's shoulders, Emma caught their reflection in a store window. They looked like any other Brooklyn family out for a treat. No one would guess that Marcus ran a Fortune 500 company, or that Emma's community programs had been featured in international development journals. "What?" Marcus asked, noticing her smile. "We look normal. We are normal. A billionaire CEO and his non-profit director wife are not normal, Marcus. We're our kind of normal." That night, after the children were asleep and the dishes were done, Emma found Marcus in his home office, not working, but looking at photos from the day on his laptop. "Come to bed," she said, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "In a minute. I'm just uploading these to the center's folder." Emma looked at the screen, seeing picture after picture of Tommy's graduation, of families celebrating, of their own children playing with others from the center. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "How much your life changed?" Marcus spun his chair to face her. "Do you know what I was doing 5 years ago tonight? Working late. Signing a deal that made the company $50 million. I celebrated alone with a glass of whiskey that cost more than most people make in a week. Had I felt nothing? Absolutely nothing." He pulled her onto his lap. "Today I watched a kid whose mother cleans our offices graduate with honors and get into Columbia. I ate ice cream that turned my son's face blue. I listened to my daughter explain why all graduations need ice cream with the seriousness of a Supreme Court justice. And I felt everything. Joy, pride, love, purpose. So no, Emma, I don't regret a single change. Even the sleep deprivation? Even that. The finger paint on your Armani suit last week? It was avant-garde fashion. The board member who quit because you wouldn't cancel the community program funding? He was a dinosaur. We're better without him." Emma kissed him, slow and deep. "I love you, Marcus Sterling. And I love you, Emma Chen Sterling. Just Emma Chen at the center. It helps me connect better with families. I know. It's one of the many things I love about you." They sat there for a moment, just holding each other. Then Emma's phone buzzed with a text. "It's from Rachel," she said, reading. "She says the Times wants to do a piece on our programs, front page of the business section. You should do it. We should do it. Together. Show them that business and community aren't opposing forces. When did you become the business strategist? I learned from the best. Your dad does give good advice." Emma laughed and swatted his shoulder. "You know I meant you. I hoped you meant me." They went to bed, setting their alarms for another early morning of children and responsibilities and purpose. As Emma drifted off to sleep, she thought about that scared, lonely girl she'd been 5 years ago. sharing her sandwich in the rain, because it was the only thing she could do. She couldn't have imagined this life then. Not the love, not the impact, not the joy of it all. Beside her, Marcus was already asleep, one arm thrown over her protectively. In a few hours, Sophie would crawl into their bed claiming nightmares, and James would follow because wherever Sophie went, he went too. They'd all squeeze into this queen-sized bed that Marcus kept threatening to upgrade, and Emma would wake up surrounded by the family she'd always dreamed of, but never quite believed she'd have. The New York Times article ran 3 weeks later with the headline, "The CEO Who Chose Community Over Convention." It featured a photo of Marcus and Emma at the center, surrounded by children from the after-school program. Marcus was mid-laugh at something Sophie had said, while Emma was helping James with an art project. It didn't look staged because it wasn't. The photographer had caught them on a regular Tuesday afternoon. The article sparked national interest. Marcus was invited to speak at universities and conferences about stakeholder capitalism. Emma was consulted by other cities wanting to replicate their community center model, but they were careful to balance these opportunities with their primary commitment, their family and their community. One evening, as Emma was putting Sophie to bed, her daughter asked, "Mama, why do you and Daddy help so many people?" Emma thought about how to explain it to a 5-year-old. "Do you remember when you shared your cookies with James even though you only had 2? He was sad because he dropped his. And how did you feel when you shared?" "Happy." He smiled really big. "That's why we help people. Because making others happy makes us happy too. Is that why Daddy doesn't work all the time like Olivia's dad?" Olivia was Sophie's best friend, whose father was always traveling for business. "Daddy learned that work is important, but family and friends are more important." "Good," Sophie said decisively. "I like when Daddy's home." "Me too, baby. Me too." Later, Emma found Marcus in the kitchen making lunches for the next day, a task he'd taken on despite Emma's protests that she could do it. "Sophie asked why we help people," Emma said, stealing a carrot stick from James's container. "What did you tell her?" "That making others happy makes us happy." Simple and true. The Emma Chen way. It's the Sterling Chen way now. Marcus sealed the last container and turned to her. "Do you think they'll understand? When they're older? The choices we've made?" "What do you mean?" "They could have had so much more. Private schools, trust funds, a house in the Hamptons. They have everything that matters, Marcus. They have parents who are present, a community that loves them, and the knowledge that their family makes a difference. That's worth more than any trust fund." "You always know what to say." "It's a gift, along with my excellent taste in movies. Those are still terrible." "You cried at the last one." "I had allergies." "In our living room?" "Very specific living room allergies." They were laughing when Marcus's phone rang. He glanced at it, frowning. "It's my mother. It's late for her to call." Emma watched his face change as he answered, going from confused to concerned to shocked. "We'll be right there," he said, hanging up. "What is it?" "She's at the hospital. David had a heart attack. He's in surgery." They called Rachel to come watch the children and drove to Connecticut in record time. Eleanor was in the waiting room, looking smaller and older than Emma had ever seen her. "He was fine," Eleanor kept saying. "We were having dinner and he was fine, and then he just collapsed." Marcus held his mother while Emma dealt with the doctors, getting updates and translating medical jargon. It was a long night, but by morning David was stable and awake. "Don't scare us like that," Eleanor scolded him, crying and holding his hand. "Sorry, my dear," David whispered. "Bad timing." Over the next few weeks, they adjusted to a new routine. Eleanor stayed with David at the hospital, then at his rehabilitation facility. Marcus and Emma took turns driving up to visit, bringing the children on weekends. "Life is so fragile," Eleanor said one afternoon, watching Sophie read a story to David. "You think you have all the time in the world, and then something like this happens. But he's going to be okay," Emma reminded her. "Yes, but it makes you think about what really matters. Marcus's father died at his desk, you know. Massive heart attack during a board meeting. He'd said we'd travel when he retired, that we'd have time later. Later never came." "Marcus won't make that mistake," Emma said firmly. "No, he won't. Because he has you." David recovered slowly but surely. The experience brought them all closer, adding another layer to their extended family. Eleanor and David decided to move closer to the city, finding a house just 20 minutes from Marcus and Emma. "I want to see my grandchildren grow up," Eleanor explained, And David wants to volunteer at the center. He was a teacher before he retired. He misses it. So David became the center's volunteer reading specialist, working with children who struggled with literacy. He had infinite patience and a gift for making stories come alive. One day, Emma watched him working with a new child, a recent immigrant who spoke very little English. David was using picture books and hand gestures, making the child laugh while learning. "He's good," Marcus said, joining her. "He's family," Emma corrected. "That too. Your mom seems happy." "She is. For the first time since Dad died, she really is." "And you?" Marcus pulled her close. "I'm beyond happy. I'm content. There's a difference." "Tell me." "Happy is moments. Content is knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to do with the people you're supposed to be with." "Very philosophical, Mr. CEO. I learned from the best, Ms. Community Director. We're quite a team. The best team." As they watched David work with the child, other children started gathering around, drawn by his animated storytelling. Soon he had a full audience, all entranced by whatever tale he was weaving. "Sophie's going to want to stay for story time," Emma predicted. "James too. We could go get coffee while we wait?" "Like a date? In the middle of the day?" "Exactly like a date." They snuck out like teenagers, walking to the cafe where they'd had some of their first conversations about the center. It had become their spot, the place they went when they needed to talk or plan or just be together without interruptions. "The Times wants to do a follow-up article," Emma said, stirring her coffee. 5 years later, that kind of thing. What do you think? "I think our story isn't about us anymore. It's about Tommy at Columbia, Maria running her own cleaning business now, all the families whose lives have changed. We were just the catalyst. You were the catalyst. I was just the guy with the checkbook." "Stop that. You changed everything, Marcus. The way Sterling Technologies operates has influenced dozens of other companies. The business school case studies, the speaking engagements. You're reshaping how people think about corporate responsibility. We're reshaping it. Together." Emma smiled. Together. They finished their coffee and walked back to find David surrounded by even more children, including their own. Sophie was helping him turn pages, while James sat in his lap, completely absorbed. "Daddy, Mama," Sophie called out. "Grandpa David is telling the best story." Grandpa David. It had started naturally, and no one had corrected it. 5 more minutes, David promised, winking at them. Marcus and Emma found seats in the back, content to watch. The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows, casting golden light on the scene. It was perfect in its simplicity, an older man sharing stories with eager children, building connections across generations. "I want to capture this," Marcus whispered, taking out his phone for a photo. "The light?" Emma asked. "The love," he corrected. Later that evening, as they drove home with sleepy children in the back seat, Emma reached over and took Marcus's hand. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For knocking on my door that night. For not giving up when I tried to close it. For becoming the man I always knew you could be. Thank you for opening the door, for seeing past the suit and the title, for showing me what really matters." "We should write a book," Sophie piped up from the back seat, apparently not as asleep as they'd thought. "About how you met and fell in love and made everything better." "That's a good idea, sweetheart," Emma said. "Would anyone want to read it?" Marcus asked. "Everyone would," Sophie said confidently. "It's the best story ever." "Because it's true?" James asked, also awake. "Because it's about love," Sophie corrected with big sister authority. Marcus and Emma exchanged glances, smiling, out of the mouths of babes. "Maybe someday," Marcus said, "when we're old and grey and have even more stories to tell." "You're already getting grey, Daddy," Sophie pointed out helpfully. "Thanks, Princess. Really needed that reminder." They all laughed as they pulled into their driveway. Home. It had taken an unexpected journey to get here, from a rainy night and a shared sandwich to this life full of purpose and love. As they got the children ready for bed, went through the familiar routines of bath time and story time and goodnight kisses, Emma thought about all the small moments that had led them here. Each choice, each kindness, each risk taken had woven together to create this tapestry of their life. "What are you thinking about?" Marcus asked later, finding her standing by Sophie's door, watching their daughter sleep. "How everything connects. Tommy needed food that night, which led me to meet you, which led to the center, which gave Maria hope, which helped Tommy get to Columbia. which inspired other kids in the neighborhood. It's like ripples in a pond. Your ripples, Emma. Your kindness started it all. Our ripples now. They stood together, watching their children sleep, safe and loved and full of possibility. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. It always did. The center needed funding for expansion. Marcus had a difficult board meeting about international markets, and the kids had overlapping activities that would require logistical gymnastics. But tonight, in this moment, everything was perfect. Not because it was easy or simple, but because it was real. Built on love, sustained by community, and proof that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can change the world. As they headed to bed, Marcus's phone buzzed with an email. He glanced at it, then set it aside. "Important?" Emma asked. "Nothing that can't wait until morning. Who are you and what have you done with my workaholic husband?" He learned that emails at midnight mean nothing compared to time with his wife. Smart man. He had an excellent teacher. Emma curled into him, feeling the familiar warmth and safety of his arms. "I love our life, Marcus. Even the chaos? Especially the chaos. It means we're living, really living, not just existing." "Then here's to more chaos," Marcus murmured, already half asleep. "To more chaos," Emma agreed, closing her eyes. Outside, New York hummed with its endless energy. But inside their Brooklyn brownstone, the Sterling Chen family slept peacefully, ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. Their story, which had begun with such a simple act of kindness, continued to unfold in ways they never could have imagined. And the best part, it was far from over. The ripples continued to spread, touching lives in ways both seen and unseen. Somewhere in the city, another child was hungry. Somewhere else, another CEO was questioning if success meant anything without purpose. And somewhere, perhaps, another small act of kindness was about to change everything. Because that's how the world changes. Not all at once, but one shared sandwich, one knocked upon door, one open heart at a time. Thank you for experiencing this beautiful journey with us. If this story touched your heart, please show your support by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Hit that notification bell to ensure you never miss another powerful story like this one. Remember, sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can create the biggest changes in our lives. Until next time, keep spreading kindness and believing in the power of human connection.